Hello, my name is Jeff Liebmann, and I'm the consulting minister here at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Smithton, Pennsylvania. This is another in our series of online video sermons. This particular sermon is titled, An Architecture of Hope. These are our chalice lighting words. Theologian Reinhold Niebuhr once asserted that the view that men and women are sinful is one of the best attested and empirically verified facts of human existence. Perhaps this is true. It may be that how we respond to our mistakes and the intent with which we live our lives matters more, however, as we define what human nature truly entails. There are many famous architects in the history of Unitarianism and Universalism. Charles Bulfinch was perhaps the first native-born American architect, and his famous works include many state houses and the U.S. Capitol. Frank Lloyd Wright is perhaps the most famous Unitarian architect of the past century. Some, however, might make a case for Buckminster Fuller, the inventor of the geodesic dome, and many other futuristic building notions. A less well-known architect, who was Unitarian, was named Bernard Maybeck. He was a prominent figure in the arts and crafts movement in California in the early 20th century. Charged with overseeing the master plan for the University of California at Berkeley, Maybeck wrote the following for the competition's prospectus. The university is a city that is to be created, a city of learning, in which there is to be no sordid or inharmonious feature. There are to be no definite limitations of cost, materials, or style. All is to be left to the unfettered discretion of the designer. He is asked to record his conception of an ideal home for a university, assuming time and resources to be unlimited. He is to plan for centuries to come. There will doubtless be developments of science in the future that will impose new duties on the university and require alterations in the detailed arrangement of its buildings. But it is believed to be possible to secure a comprehensive plan in harmony with the universal principles of architectural art. Bold words. The kinds of words that inspire and make one want to just drop everything and become part of something great. Perhaps Maybeck left a less imposing legacy of projects than Bulfinch, Wright, or Fuller. But then, an architect's vision, whether built of stone or of words, best reflects his or her true legacy. Recession, high cholesterol, terrorism, global warming, unemployment, drugs, genocide, poverty, road rage, carcinogens. Our lives abound with threats. Threats to our well-being. Threats to our happiness. Threats to our very lives. Like most life forms, we possess certain instinctive reflexes at birth that protect us from harm. But human society, civilization, cultivates our fear response like a masterfully crafted crop sown in fertile soil. We learn from our earliest days to fear sources of legitimate harm to our bodies and to our souls. Elders teach us how to behave, to avoid being ostracized, how to blend in. Our media bombard us constantly with warnings about everything from rare medical conditions to what constitutes unacceptable physical appearance and lifestyle choices. Our ever-growing and complex social infrastructure follows a blueprint aimed at guarding us from ourselves and from others, at controlling unwanted urges and fantasies, and at reducing the chance that our choices may cast us too far adrift from established paradigms. That blueprint represents the work of many architects, some working deliberately and others not, toward building an orderly society to manage human community. We guarantee the progressive growth of our culture with safeguards and laws, checks and balances, and systems of vested interest. We buy insurance to protect our homes, our cars, our possessions, our very lives. We set aside earnings to fund our living costs decades in the future. We invest in corporations, which in turn invest in other corporations, with a goal of accumulating wealth, as increasingly measured by electronic ledger entries and quarterly statements. The events of September 11th, 2001 seemed to escalate our architecture of fear in this country. But I can remember a time when our collective anxiety cut like a honed blade. As a youngster, for instance, I remember that a day hardly passed without seeing a television commercial about the dangers of stray blasting caps for playing children. Thankfully, I missed the era of students huddling under desks in response to the detonation of an atomic bomb. But we still grew up in a period when the destruction of the world loomed as more than just a statistically significant probability. I loved science fiction and horror television shows, from Boris Karloff's Thriller to Rod Serling's brilliant and timeless Twilight Zone. The best of these offerings, in my opinion, sadly, lasted only 2 short seasons. The Outer Limits premiered ominously just 2 months before President Kennedy's assassination. The network deemed the original title of the show, Please Stand By, as too frighteningly similar to civil defense messages to broadcast. You may remember the opening sequence as images of oscilloscope sine waves and a commanding voice informing you that for the next hour we will control all that you see and hear. When that voice took over the horizontal and the vertical control of my television screen, I sat in rapt attention to see how this week's bug-eyed monster would wreak havoc on humanity. Of course, as a 7-year-old, who probably had no business watching such a show in the first place, I did not comprehend that the monster was usually humankind itself, finding some new way to self-destruct, or learn too late that a hubris-induced course of action was horrifically misguided. Like the network executives, I wanted monsters, not morals. The challenge laid in creating a horror of entertainment that somehow surpassed our own endeavors to create terror in real life.